Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from SHAK Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Tuesday, June 20th. I almost said Monday, but I corrected myself there. But it is Tuesday, so this is going to be a shortened week. And we've got some things to kind of talk about today with the price action. Definitely, even though the indices were kind of quiet today, showed a little, a tiny touch of volatility, but there were some nice outperformers for the day and some things to trade. So before I get into that, risk disclaimer in front of you, everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer there. So themes of the day, kind of, this is a continuation, this one from Friday. We started to see the market kind of pull back a little bit on Friday. A lot of names finished, kind of just, ended up trickling lower throughout the session on Friday. Today just seemed a little bit more of that, or, I'm calling it right now digestion. And I think that's what we have right now in the overall for the indices, right? And I think that that's perfectly normal after the run that we've had so far, especially in June. When you look at how much we're up right now, it's huge performance. So I think that you kind of just have to be a little bit reasonable about this market here, and actually, if you're in this for for more than a couple days of trading, you probably, like myself, may want to see a little bit of digestion and maybe cooling off and shaking out some of the weak hands, getting that sentiment, which I think has gotten super hot, to kind of dial back a little bit. But yeah, if you look at the performance here, month to date, I mean, the Qs are up 5.4%. Even with today's slight move back in some of these indices, the S&P is still up close to 5%. Mid caps and small caps are up around 6%. So I mean, this has been extraordinary performance. I saw a stat today, I think it was by Ryan Dietrich, talking about this was while Ryan Dietrich puts out some great stats, I think this was by Zero Hedge, talking about this is the fastest move in the Qs to start the year ever, I believe. And I didn't double check that stat, but I believe that's what they said. And you're sitting with the Qs up about 38% year to date. So let's talk a little bit about those indices. I've mentioned them a couple of times in digestion, and yeah, I mean, we got overbought. The Qs, or SPY, really, I think, is something to watch here, because we did take out that version point of control. Again, a little bit different value area studies between SPY and S&P futures, because they are different. They have different volume, right? S&P futures trade much more during the after hour session, right? And used much more by professional traders. Yeah, so we're right around the 5-period moving average, right? It's very close to whether or not we're going to lose that or not. And that'll be something to watch tomorrow, right? And really, before I get to the Qs, there's some levels to, notice that we're kind of right in the middle of the value area for the week. I always talk about the value areas right in the beginning of the week on the 1-hour chart. If you trade on a shorter time frame, as I do, I trade some long-term stuff, but for swing trading, sometimes my swing trades are just a couple days long. Sometimes they're a couple weeks long. It depends on the trade. But what I always find on the 1-hour chart is you get some clues in terms of what's happening. And right now we've opened up the week, right? So this value area is for the whole week. We've opened up right in the middle of the value area, which kind of indicates just as what I said so far, a little bit of chop, a little bit of digestion. And I think going sideways here a little bit is not the worst thing in the world, right? Let's look at the Qs here just for a second. Let me go back to the daily chart. We'll start there. Notice that this is a bit stronger, right? Of course, that's been the way all year long. Why can't I get this to work here? What did I do? Oh, no, not that. I think I just have my charts kind of lined up a little bit funny. Here we go. I should be able to move that over, and then I can zoom out. All right. Yeah, let's see. Something got screwed up here, but it should be okay. The price action is just into the 5-period moving average, so we haven't lost the short-term trend. I've been talking about the RSI, probably some other technicians too have been talking about that. We're still overbought. This thing did get to like an 84, 85 RSI, above 70 talk about the lower study here on my chart. Above 70 is generally overbought. So we're still in overbought territory, even though we've kind of come in a little bit the last 2 days. And we'll see what happens on the 5-day moving average. We'll see if price wants to hold that a little bit. Also, same thing as I mentioned with the SPY, we're inside the value area for the week. Watch for Qs, watch 369.51. And, there'll be some more downside levels, but these are kind of far away. So take note of that. And again, a pretty choppy trading session. IWM finished, this is going to have a little bit of a different picture. Keep in mind that the small caps really have kind of, besides this week that we had this really nice movement, they've kind of stalled and haven't done much, right? I know a lot of people have been talking about the small caps and so forth, but really I'm going to be a little bit contrarian here, and I'm going to say there's not much to really like here in the weekly chart, right? Other than a little bit of a catch-up trade, this is super sideways. I don't think the outperformance comes from this area. In fact, I think that this may just plod along and continue to do what it's been doing all year long, which is go sideways, right? Until we break 195.87 to the upside, or 165.67. It's not an area that I really want to be in, other than for maybe a day trade, or if we see some other type of positioning. As always, I'll change my mind based on the price action. But for now, weekly chart is sideways, and the last couple of weeks have been sideways in the mid caps. Breadth for the day. That's another theme that I have written down. It was a little bit weaker today. You could see on the left of your screen, right? That's a breadth indicator that we use, which uses up volume versus down volume. So it was pretty much that way all day long. China weakness, right? It's kind of interesting with some of these trades. I made a point to talk about this because I was in some BABA calls, but some of the areas that are a little bit more difficult, right? I listened to a great interview this weekend. This was an interview that Richard Moglen came out with Stan Weinstein, and he was talking about keeping it simple and using your using your experiences as well as using your trading system. And we talked about how we saw option activity, bullish option activity in a lot of China names. However, you have to understand that this has not been an easy group. And for me, keeping it simple is not trying to get into a trade that's really difficult, managing your trade, knowing where you're going to take it off. I took off this BABA on Friday morning because it hit an upside level that I wanted to, that thought it was reasonable for it to take out. And since then, it's completely kind of fallen apart, down 4.5% today. So I was out with that trade very quickly. I can show you that 1 second. Yeah, so right here, you could see right in the beginning of the day, like the first 2 minutes. Again, wasn't, I made about $5 in that trade. Not the biggest, gainer in the world, but, we positioned a little bit because we saw bullish option activity, both in BABA and the Chinese internet names. But again, I did not overstay my welcome. China has not been an easy trade. So therefore, in and out, mapping out my trade before I got in it and moving on, right? So that was another theme of the day: China weakness, tension. The KWEB ETF, the China Internet ETF, was down 5.7% for the day. That's a sharp move down. Other areas that didn't perform very well today: energy and gas names ended up down 3%. Solar names, which continue to talk about a difficult area and basically why I stay away from that area. It's too difficult right now. So the solar group is down 3% for the day. Gold miners also down about 4% for the day. Also, energy names down 3.1%. That's the XLE Energy ETF. The banks back to the laggards again. Utilities and transports also underperformed a little bit. So on the leaderboard, housing stocks were strong again. I remember last week we saw strong earnings by, I think it was Lennar. We had strong housing data again today, as well as over the weekend. Or this was Monday. This was the NAHB home builder sentiment increases to 1-year high. This is something we've gone over a few times in these end of day videos. You know, why are home builders still going up? Right? Everybody on Twitter thinks, oh my God, I don't understand this because interest rates are going higher. That's usually bad for home builders, but you have to look outside of these simple relationships, right? You have to understand the bigger picture. What's the bigger picture right now? There's a very limited supply of existing homes, right? So it's more about demand and supply. There's still high demand for homes and a low supply, right? That equates to strong demand for, you know, what's going on in housing. And that's why that, you know, the housing stocks continue to go higher. When you look at a couple names here, right? Builder had a huge day, you know, back out to new highs, just like that, right? After some digestion. But I'm long Pulte. This is I took actually profits in this one last week. I actually got back into it. The trend looks pretty good. Is it a little bit extended? Sure, it's a little bit extended, but I like the group. Another one that looks pretty interesting to me is MTH, which is not as extended. But you could see is trying to punch out here. Toll Brothers is another one that I like in the space, but overall, it's the whole group right now. So that group remains strong. Also, a few other names that, you know, the medical devices came back pretty nicely today. They still finished down on the session, but we're up 1.3%. Aerospace and defense stocks were up. You had one HWM, I believe, is the one name that made a new high today. Consumer discretionary was at 1%. Again, a lot of that is because of Tesla, which I will go to next. But those were the names that rallied. Again, not as many as we talked about a second ago. Poor breath for the day, so not as many areas rallying as those that were falling, even with the market opening down lower. So let's talk about Tesla for a minute. This is a name that I got back into on Friday. You know, unfortunately, not back into with a, you know, with a full size position, but you know, I got back into this on Friday just because you know, my conviction is I believe that this name goes higher. Remember, conviction is a big thing in your trades, right? So here, you know, I got back in at 261. The reason why I did, you know, I was waiting for some consolidation. Remember, I took profits in this thing, and I wanted to get back involved in it, but I just don't know if it's going to really give you that much of an opportunity, right? The strong names, sometimes they just don't pull back too far. So I saw this last week. I said, hey, it's consolidating a little bit, but it didn't lose the 5-period moving average and kind of caught that. So I did take a target in this today. You know, I just feel like you have to. It doesn't matter how big of a position you have on, you know, when the name is rallying this hard. You know, again, I want to leave dry powder to add, but I sold some at 266. Stock closed at 274. So notice where we are. So this is, of course, the TTG MarketWeb's indicator that I use, which uses volume at price. Notice that we're already up at the R2. This is the extension away from the June value area. So this has been a ginormous move, 183 to 274. I mean, you know, from where the top of value is, I mean, that's an extraordinary move inside of a month. Where could this end up going? You know, maybe it's going up to that 288 spot 60 VPOC. That is from this Virgin point of control. So I would think that would be, you know, really a place to take more profits and see what happens if price can get back above there. But I think even now getting up to R2 is a pretty extreme move, right? But I'll still be bullish because again, the bigger picture, as I've stated many times in these videos, where the 80% rule is active, meaning that we could see you know, a move all the way through this year's value area. Again, certainly does not have to do it right away, have the whole year for it to get to 320. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. And, you know, we'll look to add on dips if possible, but, you know, clearly we just haven't gotten there. Another story for the day I thought was, you know, so by the way, this, you know, one of the catalysts was RIBN announced that they're going to be using their charging systems. Yeah, I think RIBN still looks attractive here. I actually tried to trade on Friday and it wasn't going well. And I didn't get back into it today, but I'll be watching it tomorrow. As overall, I think this is like one of those bottom feeders that, you know, maybe can kind of move out of this range and maybe up to this VPOC up here. But again, this name is in a downtrend. So whenever I talk about names that are in downtrends, I'm always talking about a trade, rather than an investment, and usually a quick trade at that if a name's in a downtrade. Bitcoin, I'm going to get to, which was also, made this phenomenal move today. Up 7.4%, and really turned around last week once we heard about the story that BlackRock has filed for a Bitcoin ETF, right? That raised a lot of eyebrows, got a lot of attention because, BlackRock usually just doesn't file for ETFs unless they're going to get approval. They are a bigger player out there, and the fact that they went ahead and filed for an ETF, means something to people, and you could see the volume really pick up on this. How I played this was, we talked about this name late in the day on Friday in the trading room. I know a couple of people who got long on Friday, so congratulations. I actually bought some pre-market, and then I bought a little bit right after the open. You had your shot too in this thing because it actually went like back to my cost base. It actually went below my cost basis. And it went all the way down to like 980. And the level, really to watch for this thing was this. Here's a 1 hour chart. Notice we did take out a virgin point of control here, but the level to watch for me was this top of value, right? And that's 1002. Notice all the coiling that this thing saw, right? So it was just a matter of time, and you had to be patient. I think I tried this once in here and it didn't work, but that's okay. You go back to it, right? It's not that big of a deal. A couple other names. So I'm still long this. I did take some profits. You could see, here's, I took profits here. Another trade that I got long last week, MKC. I took a target in. I'm ultimately looking for 94.77. That's the virgin point of control. I'll stay in the trade as long as the price stays above the 5-period moving average, but I did take another target in this. They really like this Spice company. A lot of positioning and calls in this one. And Salesforce, next name. I'll go through a couple names rather quickly, but I like the fact like this thing's been digesting since it reported earnings, right, back in here, and now maybe it might be possible for this thing to start to move here. So I did get long Salesforce, and I took a target in that one. A few other names that I thought were really interesting. I'm not in these names, but Generac, first time back above its 200-day moving average since all the way back here in 2021. December 2021. So, again, another name that's basing and maybe ready to kind of start moving again. Nice move over the 200-day moving average. It's one I'll be watching tomorrow. I know PayPal has been getting a lot of attention in a downtrend. First of all, first thing to note, right? Another thing to note is this thing is pushing against its bottom of value. 68.22 is a level to watch at the end of the week. We'll see if it can get back into the value area for the year. So again, no position. I'm just watching this one, but I thought was interesting. Another housing name that I got long last week was EXP. Just looks so clean of a move, even though, no option activity or anything like that, but nice move out of this consolidation, nice move higher. One other group I think is really interesting right now is what's going on with these cheaper pharma names. These are like your specialty pharma names. This is, look at them all do the same thing. MCK, which is McKesson, ABC, which is Amerisource Bergen. There we go. I mean, look at the breakouts going on here, right? And CAH is another one that's been on fire too. Paused a little bit, but still looks pretty good. A couple names that I'm watching for tomorrow. SHAK had a nice move today after a little bit of digestion. Check back into the top of value. Pretty strong there for SHAK. And again, if you zoom out, you could see that this could still have a lot of retracement to do. STNE. This is I believe, Brazilian software name that Warren Buffett owns. What I really like is this weekly chart. We talk about this all the time. This one sideways, 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 but above the value area and very slim value area for 2023. Daily chart also, if it can break this 1414, next stop I think is 1689 or 1609, excuse me. Very strong. Another software name that everybody seems to be watching, which is a very interesting software name, is this INTA. That's also one that I'll be watching for tomorrow. Many more names to talk about, but I'll end it there. I've got a couple other names like some of the cyber names. FTNT is pulling back nicely after a breakout. And here are your names that are your 4-week new highs. You could see a lot, even though bad breath today, a lot of new 4-week new highs versus 4-week new lows. So that still is in the right direction. Guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow. Hope to see you in the Tribeca trade room. We start our pre-market session where we review charts and setups right at 10 after 9 o'clock in the morning. So hope to see you in the trading room.